In 1966, the 10 Anderson siblings and their mother, Thelma, face a terrible tragedy.
My dad worked at a chemical company in Midland, Michigan. His position was boilermaker, and the boiler exploded. So that's how we lost our dad. I was 16, so Nancy was 13. That was a really tough time for Nancy. But she still had the ability to get us all in a really good mood and really have fun in spite of what we'd been through.
In June of 1970, Nancy graduates high school, but she's uncertain about her next steps.
Nancy wanted change more than anyone. She graduated from high school and watched her friends go off to college, go off to the service, starting their lives. And she did not have that path, and she was trying to find herself.
Nancy decides the perfect place to begin the next chapter of her story is over 4,000 miles away in Honolulu, Hawaii. It would be the first time she has ever been on her own and away from her mother and her siblings.
I think that was her somewhere over the rainbow, the beaches and the sunshine and beauty that it has to offer.
On October 21st, 1971, Nancy arrives in Oahu and quickly finds a job and a place to live in Honolulu.
She found an apartment via the newspaper. It was an advertisement looking for a roommate.
She got a job at the McDonald's restaurant in the Ala Moana Shopping Center, which was a little over a mile from where she lived.
When she came home, she bought everyone a present for Christmas. And she also decided that she would construct a picture gallery on the wall in our family room.
She wanted to give a gift to my mom and to all her siblings. That's what she created, Mom and Dad and all 10 of us. I think it was a way of her to show her love for all of us.
After we spent Christmas together, I took her to the airport to go back to Hawaii. And Nancy says to me, "Carol, I don't want to go back." Being the practical person I guess I am, I said, "Nancy, you have to go back. All your things are there." And looking back, I really wish I would have said, "Why, Nancy?" It's always haunted me, why didn't I ask her that question?
Nancy takes her sister's advice and boards the plane to Honolulu.
On January 7th, we were all in the family room. There was a pool table. My mother was sitting in a chair and doing some crocheting. All of a sudden, we heard a loud bang, and my mother just stopped what she was doing. She had her back to the pool table and she said, "Nancy." "Oh no, Nancy."
My friend and I were standing next to that wall, the picture gallery wall. I'm playing pool. He ended up bumping the wall.
Nancy's picture is the top left hand, and hers is the only one that came down, crashed, glass shattered everywhere.
And my mom didn't even see what photo fell. And she screams out her name.
We all felt something's happened. Something was wrong here. And it was just eerie.
That same day, on January 7th, 1972, around 5:15 p.m. in Honolulu, Nancy's roommate, 19-year-old Jody Spooner, makes a frantic call to 911.
Nancy's roommate said that she heard water running in Nancy's bathroom. When she went to investigate, she found Nancy lying on the floor of her bedroom.
Jody Spooner indicated that she believed that her roommate, Nancy Anderson, committed suicide.
By 6 p.m., patrol officers arrived at the Coral Terrace apartments. There was no indication of a forced entry. No damages to the door jamb, the doorknob, the latch.
After briefly evaluating the scene, officers call in Honolulu's Criminal Investigation Unit.
When detectives arrived, they went back into her bedroom. There were 2 twin beds in Nancy's bedroom. One was made and in order. The other twin bed, the sheet was stained with blood, and Nancy's body lay next to that twin bed. On her back, head up, eyes open, feet pointed towards the doorway.
Although her blouse was partially ripped, she was fully clothed other than that, so it didn't appear sex-related. But it was multiple puncture wounds. You know, it's very violent.
When detectives saw the nature and scope of the crime, they'd never seen something so shocking.
Given the brutal nature of the crime itself, it was quite obvious it wasn't a suicide as Jody had actually thought it might be. This was a homicide.
The injuries caused to Nancy were created by a sharp force instrument, so they were looking for a knife. They had looked through the kitchen and did not find any that would suggest that it had been used during the murder or that there was a particular knife that was missing. Investigators did find a towel that was on the floor near Nancy's body, which was clearly stained with blood. Another beach towel was right inside the front door to the apartment, also stained with what appeared to be blood.
Crime scene techs dust for prints and photograph the scene, while investigators search the rest of the building.
A third towel was found on the ground floor of the stairwell.
The towel in the stairwell, there was blood on it, and that established somebody actually left the apartment. It's very easy for someone who's perpetrating something like this to actually cut themselves.
Detectives believe the assailant used one or more towels to try to stop the bleeding.
Nancy's body is transported to the county morgue, where the medical examiner paints a disturbing picture of Nancy's murder.
The medical examiner had documented more than 60 stabbed and incised wounds.
They were able to estimate that the weapon used was a small knife, probably a paring knife, which is a relatively short-bladed knife, and it's much more difficult to actually kill somebody with a short knife in terms of being able to hit vital organs.
In Honolulu, detectives sit down with Nancy's roommate, Jody Spooner.
We couldn't imagine anyone doing that to Nancy, anyone. Nancy had no enemies, but we didn't know her roommate. We didn't know who Jody Spooner was, so isn't the obvious thing to think could be her roommate?
All I knew was Nancy and her roommate weren't really best friends. They were maybe not even close friends. They were just, it was a relationship of convenience.
Jody described Nancy as friendly and outgoing, perhaps a little naive in her willingness to engage and speak with strangers. There was no indication that Nancy was promiscuous, but rather she was just a very friendly person who was an easy ear and chatted up people on the street. And Jody said that it wasn't uncommon for Nancy to have strangers in their apartment. January 7, 1972 was a Friday. Jody said that she left the apartment at about noon to go shopping. She said that she returned to the apartment at approximately 2:30 and that she found Nancy with two young men. These two individuals were cutlery salesmen doing an exhibition on knives. Obviously, that's a concern because they're hawking wares consistent with the murder weapon.
Jody said Nancy escorted them down to the ground floor and let them out of the building, approximately 3 o'clock.
Jody said that when Nancy returned back to the apartment, they spoke for about 10 minutes. And thereafter, Jody then went to her bedroom to take a nap.
She said that that was the last time that she had actually seen Nancy alive.
The detectives were very curious about why Jody would not have heard what is going on in the apartment. Her account is that she woke and heard water running. Nancy's bedroom had a complete bath. That separated Nancy's bedroom from Jody's bedroom. And so the detectives did their own experiment where one detective went into Nancy's room and made noise, and they had the water running, and they concluded that it's very possible that Jody would not have heard what was going on given the construction of the apartment at the time, coupled with the running water.
Investigators searched the apartment for any evidence that may identify the two knife salesmen.
The cutlery salesmen were identified immediately by the detectives because they left a pie cutter, of all things, on the tabletop. The detectives tracked down the distribution center and identified the two cutlery salesmen. And their names were Parker Graham and Jeffrey Allward. They were interviewed and explained that they met Nancy on the street in Waikiki at about 12 noon. And they had made an appointment to see her at the apartment at 1 o'clock.
They said Nancy's roommate arrived at the apartment at about 2:30, and they said Nancy didn't end up buying anything, so they left at approximately 3 o'clock.
Jeffrey Allward and Parker Graham both consented to polygraphs, and no deception was indicated. They were eventually eliminated, and they corroborated Jody's timeline. At this point, the investigating detectives eliminated Jody and put the potential time of death between 3:10 p.m. and 5:15 p.m. when Jody found the body.
With no evidence of forced entry, investigators theorize either Nancy knew her killer and invited them into the apartment, or the killer was someone who already had access.
Detectives have interviewed almost everyone in Nancy's circle and have eliminated them through fingerprints or alibis. Over the next 4 months, Honolulu detectives get several phone calls with different tips. Investigators track down each and every lead, but none of them pan out.
These are the type of cases that give you nightmares. There's no reason for something like this to happen. You know, it's very violent, it's very random as far as we could tell. In June of 1972, 5 months had elapsed since the murder of Nancy Anderson. There were no additional leads or tips that had come in, and the case was left as a pending case at that point.
In the years after Nancy's death, we had family reunions. In January 2018, we met in Florida. Jack says, there's a new thing out now with DNA. He had been reading about investigative genetic genealogy. And I'm like, I'm not really sure, but I'm gonna take your word for it, Jack. And so in February, I wrote to the chief of police again and presented Nancy's case, said, is there any possibility of doing genetic genealogy?
Genetic genealogy is taking the genetic profile and being able to match it with somebody's ancestry to somebody within that family. That was something that we knew about, but we were not very familiar with.
Not only has Honolulu PD never used this method before, their forensic labs can't produce the level of genetic detail necessary to utilize genealogy.
When we got home from the reunion, I thought, we need help. We can't do this alone. The police need help. So after doing some internet searching, I ran across this genetic genealogist that does this stuff. Her name is Cece Moore. So in early 2019, I decided to take a chance. I said, Cece, we need your help. And by the end of the day, I received a reply. I want to help your family.
At Parabon, we work with law enforcement to reverse engineer someone's family tree through genetic genealogy techniques in order to identify people who have left their DNA behind at crime scenes. It's not typical that a family reaches out to me. So this was a little bit different, and it definitely made me very emotionally invested in the case.
Parabon nanolabs could provide actual simulation of what that individual would look like based on the DNA profile, and that's something that our labs were not capable of.
It's called snapshot phenotyping, and it uses DNA to predict somebody's physical traits.
In July of 2019, almost 50 years after Nancy's murder, Honolulu investigators finally have a basic description of her killer.
The Parabon snapshot predicted that the person who left his DNA behind at the crime scene had fair to very fair skin, brown or hazel eyes, and brown or black hair with ancestors from Southern Europe and Southeastern Europe. We didn't expect this to be a mirror image or, like a photograph would be, but it does help us to narrow down who this individual could be. This is where genetic genealogy comes in. What I do is I build the family trees of the people who are sharing DNA with that unknown suspect. When I built these individuals' trees, I could see that they were going back to 3 places geographically: Romania and 2 different places in southern Italy. A very unique mix of ancestry. And I thought that in 1972 in Honolulu, there probably were not a lot of individuals who were half Romanian and half Italian. That gave me very specific things to look for. And I found that the 1971 Honolulu City Directory had been digitized and it was online. So I started looking for surnames that had a Romanian origin or an Italian origin, and I built their family trees. It took a lot of time just to get to the C's. But when I got to the C's, I came upon the name Tudor Chirilla. And Chirilla immediately jumped out at me as a Romanian surname. And when I built his family tree, it was half Romanian on his dad's side, half Italian on his mom's side. So I started getting really excited. He had received his Master of Arts from the University of Hawaii, and he was working as a teaching assistant at the time of Nancy's murder.
Cece learns after Tudor left Honolulu, he earned a law degree in California in 1977, and by 1980 was practicing law in Nevada.
After 2 years of research, in November of 2021, Cece Moore issues her findings in a report for the Honolulu PD and names 77-year-old Tudor Chirilla as a possible suspect in Nancy's murder.
Tudor Chirilla is living alone in Reno, Nevada. And Honolulu PD can't get a warrant to collect his DNA solely on Cece Moore's genealogy research. So in February of 2022, they partner with Reno PD to lawfully collect Chirilla's abandoned DNA.
They attempted to follow him and collect a discarded piece of chewing gum or a cigarette butt.
In this case, that turned out to be incredibly difficult. Tudor didn't leave his apartment very often. The trash was in a shared receptacle. And so weeks and months went by.
With the assistance of law enforcement on the mainland, they actually obtained a warrant.
On September 6, 2022, law enforcement went to Mr. Chirilla's apartment in Reno, Nevada.
Hello, how are you?
Hi, you Mr. Chirilla?
Yeah.
Reno Police Department. Can we come in and talk to you for just a second?
Can we talk out here?
Sure, come on up.
Oh, wait a minute. If I let you in, you guys take that, like, to arrest me that you're inside?
I have no intention of arresting you today.
Oh. Okay.
Okay?
This seems strange.
They had to inform him the reason why they were obtaining his DNA sample.
I'm Detective B with the Honolulu Police Department. We're investigating a murder from 1972. Okay, so we have a signed search warrant to obtain a sample of your DNA.
Isn't that illegal?
No, it's not illegal because we have a search warrant and a seizure order.
Although Chirilla never admitted to the crime, his reaction when confronted by police about it, I think, speaks volumes.
Thanks, sir. Have a good day.
That lag time between taking the DNA and processing the DNA, in this case, was 2 days. That was a concern to our family. What's he gonna do in those 2 days? Well, he did some very strange things.
On September 8, 2022, Mr. Chirilla transferred title to his car to his neighbor and attempted to commit suicide by overdosing on Tylenol.
Unfortunately for him, he had actually started a fire, and in responding to the fire department was able to locate him and find out that he had overdosed, and they were able to revive him. I think innocent people don't try to give away their possessions and commit suicide. That's something that, guilty people do.
4 days later, Honolulu PD's oldest unsolved homicide is no longer a mystery. And Nancy's family gets the news they've been waiting for 50 years.
It was a phone call from a detective, and he said it did match. It's Tudor Chirilla. He was arrested in the hospital, is now in the Reno jail. After all these years, this was the man. This was him. This is who killed our sister. And I just kept telling him, thank you, thank you.
We were all on cloud 9, knowing that he was finally arrested.
I was elated because I had this huge sense of responsibility to Nancy's family. So it felt like a real triumph.
He's behind bars, so we're hopeful that he'll be tried and convicted.
The prosecution prepared more than a year for the trial. However, on December 25, 2023, Mr. Chirilla is taken to the Queens Medical Center for end-of-life care. For 2 days prior, he had refused to eat, drink, and take his medications. He was pronounced dead at the hospital.
On Christmas Day, which to us is poetic, I guess you could say, because the last time we all saw Nancy was on Christmas vacation in 1971. If there is poetic justice, and if there was a day he was gonna die for us, that was as good as any.